Hi, this is the first time I'm doing that, so you have to excuse me for not being that professional. I'm actually reading from the screen as English is not my native language and trying not to mumble too much. This is actually the third take, so take it, take it for what it's worth. I have to protest the way that Fritz Haber was portrayed in this episode of Crash Course Chemistry by John Green. Saying Haber was the closest thing we had to an evil genius is in no way accurate, and in this case it's kind of insulting. Let's start by simply saying Haber process saved more lives than it took. A lot more lives than it took. It's not a flaw in the process, it's the initial intent. Ammonia is crucial in the process of creating fertilizers. We need fertilizers for the growing population of the world. Most nitrogen in your body is probably coming from a Haber process. Yes, it was used to create bomb, and Haber did participate in the war effort on Germany's side, but that in no way makes him a villain. World War I is quite different than the Second World War in the term of good guys versus bad guys. Hitler was a bad guy. There's no other way of looking at this. He murdered innocent people. He was the enemy of democracy. But it's not that clear when you're talking about First World War. And for the argument's sake, I'd say that England was the bad guy. Were the bad guys. England enslaved most of Africa, and it went into the war with the thought of dominating more parts of the world. England was founded on religious principles, while Germany had a more secular humanist ethos. You can argue with my description, I'm not saying that, but it's not that clear cut. Now, people lived in Germany were loyal to their nation. He was a chemist. He helped his country in the best way he knew how. I'd say that when Hitler rose, he was allowed to go on with his research and could live a normal life despite being Jewish. He declined this offer. We cannot say if it was a moral choice or personal choice, but he did not help Hitler during the Second World War. Now, beside Haber process, there's the issue of Fritz pushing for usage of chemical agents in World War I. Two main chemicals we're going to talk about were the chlorine and the mustard gas. Understanding this requires a different set of mind. Fritz Haber was, at this time, on the side of a very big majority that thought the problem with World War I was, in a funny way to say this, equilibrium. None of the side was stronger than the other. Haber believed that chemical weapons could break this equilibrium and push England to surrender faster. And this way it would save lives of both sides. Now, it took almost no time for the militaries to adapt to the gassy environment, and to be honest, it was a mistake. But bad mistake, bad judgment doesn't make someone an evil villain. A lot of people made at the time this mistake on both sides. Chemical weapons has a reputation of creating horrible death. I'm not saying it's not a reasonable way of thinking. Mustard gas hurts. But so does a bullet in the stomach, and so does losing a leg, bleeding from a mine, and so does a sharp fragment in the eye from a grenade, and so does a knife from a robber in Central Park, and so does getting cancer or heart disease, or just plain being too old. Death is painful and unpleasant in most cases. The gas Haber pushed for was used against military targets at the time. Today it's prohibited mostly because it doesn't distinct well between military targets and non-combatants. But it's a good thing it's prohibited, even though it's not very helpful, as we hear from Syria nowadays. But you can't make chemical weapon the bad guys. In conclusion, I really hope that John would do something to fix this portrayal of someone actually most of us owe our lives to. And if you're looking for someone to portray an evil genius, I do believe you'll find von Neumann a lot more fitting. First of all, he was a genius, a real genius. The second thing, he was part of a group that developed the atom bomb and the hydrogen bomb. And he was pushing for bombing Russia without any provocation, and you know why? Because math told him so. Now that's an evil genius. Haber was just some guy born in the wrong state. Let him be. Thank you.